Welcome to Santaroga Surplus. This is video number 2, our video number 1, depending on how you want to look at it, on the Ruger SP101 action job. Note that this is pretty much the same thing for a GP100. There's going to be some minor differences. I might do a video series specifically on the GP100 later on. Right now, I'm going to do this at 1/10 speed because you need to see it. There was a video earlier where I talked about how to take the grips off, why I do different grips, and some basic disassembly. So we're going to rush through the first part and start by taking the grip off. Grip screw. It's a flathead screw. Use a good flathead. Don't chew it up. Okay? Once you've got it out, you can use it to poke the panel off of the opposite side. At least in theory, you can use it to poke the panel off of the opposite side. Screw. Panel. The other panel will come off as you push the metal retaining pin. Okay? Now remember, your right side panel has the disassembly screw, or the disassembly rod, a little piece of copper right here that sits in a channel. You don't want to lose that. You know, you don't have to use it for anything, but you should probably keep your stuff together. Retaining pin. Rubber grip comes off. Once you have all of your grip stuff off, remember that you need a spot to securely put your things while you're working. I have a drawer at my workbench, and I have a bunch of little cups and bags and Ziplocs. The next step is going to be to remove your hammer spring and hammer strut. Now, I like to do this with a you can use the little copper pin like in the other video. I really prefer to do this with something a little bit bigger. So, cock the hammer. There's a hole on the strut. It came down. See? Now, uncock the hammer. No hole. Cock the hammer. Hole. There's a little hole up there. You're going to stick a thing through it. That is it. You stick a thing through it. Slowly release the hammer. And now you can remove hammer spring and strut. Remember that the hammer strut, the metal piece, has a more acute angle. It comes in further towards the front of the gun. And that this little letter C here, on mine anyway, stamped letter, faces the right-hand side of the firearm. All right, now we are going to replace the spring, so we're going to take the spring off. In order to take the spring off, you're going to put tension on the holder, the retaining, this part here. You're going to put tension on it, pull your thing out, and release slowly and gently. Now you have your shoe. Which way did your shoe go? Let's put it back together and take a look at that, okay? Okay. Letter C. This is the right-hand side. So the gun is upside down, right-hand side. Forward, the muzzle end of the gun has the cutout. Got it? Now, pressure. Take pin out. Let it go. All right. This is the easy part. This is a spring. It's a factory weight spring. we're going to replace it with another spring, and we are going to polish the bearing surface. The bearing surface is this round part here. If you look very carefully, probably not on the video, because the lighting's not very good, you can see that it is rough. Okay? This part here we're going to polish. You do not want to remove any metal. You're just going for polishing. Okay? For polishing, I use polishing wheels on a Dremel. Let's back this out a little bit here. There we go. Polishing wheels on a Dremel, and green buffing compound. Okay? It's on, it's tight. Gonna get a little bit of a load on it there. And we're just gonna lightly buff. Alright, so the hammer strut bearing surface here is polished. You could, in theory, also polish the actual strut itself a little bit where it rides, where the spring rides, but this really should not be the type of thing that you're going to actually notice anything with. If you feel a rough spot, you can get a stone out and make sure that there's no rough corner. Corners are the only thing I worry about, but these pieces seem to have a pretty reasonable edge to them, or edge roundness to them. So I don't usually worry about that. Wolf is who I use for spring kits most of the time, and in a Wolf spring kit for the Ruger SP101, you're going to have a reduced trigger return spring, and you're going to have reduced power hammer springs. I've had really good luck with the middle spring. I guess it's the 10-pound spring. But in this revolver, which is a 9mm, I'm going to go ahead and use the 12-pound reduced hammer spring. Reduced power. Excuse me. And I'm doing that because a 9mm revolver is something that I will occasionally probably shoot surplus ammunition in, and I need to worry about NATO primers, military primers, as opposed to 357 38 Special, where I really am never going to have to deal with anything but commercial or hand-loaded ammunition. I've never... I do hand-load, and I can't imagine a situation where I'm dealing with weird Russian military import primer stuff, you know? So, here we go. Take the spring out. And again, not much to it, just a different spring. And once again, you know, if you feel a need to deburr or smooth out some surfaces here, just remember that the one thing you don't want to do is change any geometries. Once again, letter C is on the right-hand side of the revolver. We're working upside down, so the muzzle of the revolver is aimed at me, and this part here is going to face me also. Compression rod. I'm going to go ahead and use the little copper disassembly pin. Cut out facing me. Once you get it on the strut, the compression rod works very well. See? I don't know if you can see, but you have to get it over the strut before it does. Then you can put your pin through, gently release, and we're done. This is the first part of an action job, smoothing out the bearing surface of the hammer strut and reducing the hammer spring.